that.
Yeah.
Boy, that was terrific.
You really like
Really? Yeah, I like that.
You'd like to be in the front row?
Well, I'm not going to commit myself.
It's loud, and it's obviously, but it's entertainment with which you may not be familiar.
No, but I like it. I do. I really like it.
Well, the movie's titled Divine Madness, and I'd be happy to get you some comps. I'm sure we can work that out, all right? We're in Chicago with Bette Midler, and we'll be back in just a moment. Jump through hoops like that.
All I said was sing, kids.
Well,
I can't believe they know it. It's so, it makes me feel so good. It's...
You're schmaltzy then, huh?
Yeah, I am. I'm weak in that area. Sentimental.
That must be a terribly powerful feeling to bring an audience down
is.
and bring it up.
It is. It is.
Yes.
Since you said that your parents were rather conservative, I wonder how they feel about your performances.
Well, my mother passed away last year on her birthday, but she, up until the time she passed away, was my biggest booster. She thought I was it. She thought I was full of life, and she loved the fact that I was out there, and nothing would keep me down, you know. No disappointment could keep me down.
So even though it wasn't their style, they could respect your style.
I'm not done. Then there was my old man, who was mortified about the whole thing. He's never seen me work, and well, I think he saw a television show. He said, "Feh," and he didn't go to the film, but he did tell me that he was very proud of the fact that I was nominated for an Oscar. He was very proud of that.
Does that bother you, that he feels a little uneasy about your performances?
It used to in the beginning, but it doesn't anymore. I've grown accustomed to it, you know, and he is what he is. And he gives me so many other things that are so wonderful, and has done so many things for me that have helped me and have made me the person that I am today, that I really can't hold that against him. I wouldn't go see me either. No, just joking, kids. Hey.
Okay, you are so energetic in yourself. You create energy in your audiences. Now, when you make your movie, did you find that a little bit harder when not having a live audience in front of you all the time? Do you take from your audience too?
In my live shows, I do. But in the films, when you do the films, you have to do it in your own head. You know, you have to bring memories to work with you, actually, that will inspire that kind of performance.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm from Oklahoma, and when I saw you climb out of the ocean, out of that clam, and belt out Oklahoma, I just thought it was great, and that's when I really started being a fan.
Thank you. Thanks.
You're talking about a part of the act. So the
Yes,
TV special.
right. Well, that's one of my favorite shows. I was deep into musical comedy for a long time.
Are you going to do any more TV specials, or?
I owe NBC one more. I think I will. Pardon me?
You don't know when?
No.
Hi, I don't really know how to do this tactfully, so I'll just ask you, how old are you?
I'm Well, now let me see. I was just going to blurt out the truth. I wonder, I should start to lie fairly soon. I'm 34. I was born in 45. It was a good year.
Yeah, what's your idea of relaxing, getting away from it all?
I never did that. I don't know how to do that.
Are you okay alone on Saturday night with a book?
Gee, that's a hard one. Some Saturday nights I'm okay. Some Saturday nights I really hit the skids and the bottle.
I'd like to know, why do you think you have such a large gay following, and do you think you've lost any of it since you've become more conventional?
No, and no. When I first started working at the Continental Baths, I was playing to strictly gay audiences. And they followed me. They've been real loyal to me. I don't think I've lost them, but the audience has definitely broadened. I get a lot of young couples, and I get a lot of older people, strangely enough. I love my crowd. My crowd's very bright. That's all I can say.
The late 60s were a time of turmoil. What kind of influence did the late 60s, aside from Janis Joplin, the music and the Beatles, influence on you?
Can you say that again?
Did the turmoil of the 60s, politically, how did the politics of the 60s impact on you? The war, the streets, the kids, the long hair, Berkeley, dope, Canada.
Well, I did my share of marching, but I was never very clear about it, to be quite honest. I was working very hard. I was trying to learn various and sundry things about my craft, and I was immersed in it. I had a good deal of sympathy for the people who were over there, but I didn't really understand how they got there in the first place, and I didn't know who the Vietnamese were and who the forces were that were trying to change their lives. I'm still confused about it, you know, and I think a lot of people are. I spent the whole time watching it, but I didn't participate in it because I couldn't understand it. It was too confusing for me. All of a sudden, things that were, I was brought up, I'm 34, and I was brought up in the 50s, and in the 50s, everything was black and white. Yeah. You know, there were the good guys, and then there were the bad guys, and all of a sudden, in the 60s, it wasn't black and white anymore. It was all gray, and you couldn't figure out whether you should go in and save the Vietnamese and save the idea of free enterprise, and what does free enterprise really mean to people who have a whole other culture? And it was I never got over it. I'm still confused about it.
Yeah. In your world tour, you had not altogether positive things to say about the audiences in Germany.
Well, you know, I'll tell you the truth. When we went to Germany, this was 2 years ago now, when we went to Germany, they were still looking for the Baader-Meinhof gang. And we got off the plane, and there were soldiers with machine guns at the ramp, you know, and strewn all throughout the airport. And I had heard about it, but I had never seen anything like that, and it put me in a terrible frame of mind. Aside from the fact that I'm Jewish, and I took that whole thing, I've had that with me for many, you know, ever since I was a kid. I've had that hanging over my head and have been unable to lose it. So playing to Germany, I avoided going to Germany for many, many years. I did, but I finally had to go. And when I went, I'll tell you honestly, I was drunk the whole time. I was drunk. I could not face it. I couldn't face it.
What was it, your preconceived?
Yes, it was my old notions, my sorrow, a sorrow that's so deep inside of you, you don't really know that you have it until you're there in the country itself. I'll tell you, we went back there last summer, and I had a wonderful time because I had spent the first trip in the pits. You know, I mean, just really mourning.
Yeah.
You know?
What does that mean, hanging over your head?
Well, you know, there are things that you carry with you, these tensions, these anxieties that you carry with you about the way human beings are to each other. Things that are passed over when you're a kid, you know, things that you're not taught when you're a kid, like racism. Things that are not well, I can't explain it. I was never very conscious of race, of antagonism between races, because I was brought up in Hawaii, and they don't have that exactly the same way they have it here. And when I got here on the mainland, I discovered all this sort of racial animosity, even amongst people who are white. You know, the Irish against the Italians and the Poles, and I had never experienced that, and it was just. And then when you get to Europe, you realize that here's a whole continent of people who don't even speak the same language and who hate each other's guts. And it's like, but we're all on the planet. We're all on the planet. We're all the same. We all eat. We all evacuate. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
This
What's
consciousness.
going on?
Is this behind you now, or is there...
No, it's not behind me. It comes, if I have a good day, I don't think about it. But if I have a bad day, I sit home and I stew.
Do you remember your first incident where somebody said she doesn't test waspish or anything like that?
Well, that was a tough one. That was a tough one because in Hawaii, I was always white, you know. And it was a big shock when I came to the mainland and discovered I wasn't white at all. You know, it was... You know, it sort of took me aback. And, well, I'm...
You were something else besides being white.
Something else besides being white. And it was something that because I had never been to religious school and I had never been to synagogue, I didn't really understand how it related to me. And so I got, you grow up in a hurry, you know.
It didn't anger you? It made you what, more defensive? Or
all those things. It angered me and made me more defensive, and I don't know.
Yeah, nobody at home ever said, now listen... you never felt any
No,
kind of...
in Hawaii it's completely different. They don't make any distinction between Irish or Czechoslovakians or Italians or Jews. In Hawaii they don't do that. They only know you're white, and they don't want to know you. You know, they're called haoles. They call white people haoles in Honolulu. And
you told us a story about a young skinny kid you went to school with that everybody made fun of, and they locked him in a bass fiddle case.
It was very sad.
Out of this book, Bette Midler, A View from Abroad, which is funny and irreverent and all the other things, comes this story. You got it in. It must be in there, huh?
Oh, yeah.
And tell him.
Well, Angel Wong was a sort of a hybrid kind of a person. He was a mixed boy. He was a boy of mixed parentage, and he was very thin, and his head was sort of wobbled on his body, and he walked with a limp, and people teased him mercilessly, and one day he was the kids, you know how they tease each other. That's another thing I never understood, why kids are so evil with each other. These kids picked him up, and these two boys locked him in a bass fiddle case, and they kept him there. And the music teacher came in and looked for him, and she couldn't find him. And eventually they let him out, but he was so mortified, he was so humiliated that he killed himself. He hung himself because he was tired of being the punchline, and that's the story.
Well, I didn't mean to put you in a downer thing, but I was impressed with that jumps out at you in the middle of this book. And I guess I just said...
That's life, you know. That's life. You can tell jokes all you like, but then you have to face the reality of people hating each other and being mean to each other and cruel.
And why do kids get beat up so much by that?
I don't...
Not only their peers, but adults and cops and principals. Not always, but often.
I don't know.
Yeah. Were you popular?
Some years.
We'll be back in just...
I would just like to say there was a whole group of us when we were in high school. We went to see you every chance we could. We bought all your records. We imitated you. We put together an act that was you and the Harlettes, and you got us all through a very difficult time while we were growing up. And now that I see you as an adult, I understand even more why you had that effect on me. And I think that I can speak for all of them and say thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm very moved. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks. Oh, that's wonderful.
The book is titled Bette Midler, A View from Abroad. It's a pictorial review of her world tour. What was the best, most enthusiastic, warm... Did you say Copenhagen?
Oh, Copenhagen, they were nuts. They were nuts.
Meaning good.
Oh, they
great,
were great.
enthusiastic.
They were great. But they were great in Germany, too. Isn't that bizarre?
Yeah.
They loved me. They loved me in Australia, darling.
Thanks very much to Bette Midler. And
Thank
you. For
you.
being
Thank
here.
you.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Consumer activist Ralph Nader is going after big business like never before. And now he's going into the movie business. Ralph Nader on the next Donahue.